Domino Thinking presents Natural Born Speakers with your host, Alison Donaghy. If you are born to talk and want to know how to build your career around it, then Natural Born Speakers is the show for you. Now grab your seat because this is the place to be. Now here is your host, Alison.
Good morning, all you East Coasters. This is Alison, and for you that are further east than me, good afternoon. Thanks for tuning in. Today, I'm super excited about this show. We have Rosemarie Barnes on. She is a public speaker and a certified speaking coach. So she does all that great stuff with your voice, gets you working it, gets you using it, because it's definitely a tool that we need to access. She's created systems to assist speakers to present their cases clearly, emphatically, and persuasively. She also coaches clients about how to use their voice, which I already talked about, and she speaks to leaders about the changing leadership paradigms of the 21st century business, because boy, business has changed. I've had another business that I've had for 17 years, and it is certainly not the same as it was when we started. There's a new generation coming up, and Rosemarie knows all about how to handle it and incorporate that into your current business. I know Rosemarie. I met her before I spoke with Power Talks, and I did get the fortune of sharing the stage with her. And she did some coaching with me before I went on stage, and she was amazing. The little tidbits, those little tweaks that she gave me that just changed what I was doing from good to great was invaluable. So I'd like you to help me welcome Rosemarie Barnes.
Hello, Alison.
Hey, Rosemarie, how are you?
I'm great. How about you?
Good. I am really, really good today. It's a good day. I kind of wish it would stop raining, but alas, we cannot have everything.
You don't have to shovel rain. It's just fine.
Well, I guess there is that, isn't there?
Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate you taking the time to do that. I am super excited to hear you share your story. And if you want to just dive right in, then how about you start with that, how you came to where you are, because I'm sure you didn't come out of the womb thinking you were going to do this.
Wow, that's the truth. That is the truth. The road to becoming a speaker, oh my goodness. I feel like bursting into a Beatles song about a long and winding road. Oh my goodness. I have, since junior high school, I have known that my happy place, in other parts of the world it's called middle school. I have known that on the stage is my happy place. I love being on the stage. The various things that I do on the stage have changed over the years, from being a dancer to being a singer to being an actor. Ultimately, I became a teacher. Prior to that, though, I was working in business, in corporate business, and then I took a job with Athabasca University. Athabasca University was the very, very first online university. It was housed in Edmonton, Alberta, where I lived at the time, and I took a job there because I needed the money. So I began as a glorified receptionist, I guess. Being still and quiet is really not one of the things I do best. So I was bored, and so I began to snoop around the university, and this particular department needed help, and I'd say, well, I can do that for you. And another department said, I could use your help, and so I did that for them. And so as time went on, I began to know what all the departments did and how they did it and who was doing what. They didn't have a purchasing department. Everybody was just buying what they needed whenever they needed it. And so things were costing far, far, far too much. So I approached them and said, what would you think if I created a purchasing department? And I sold it to them and patted myself on the back for my ingenuity and persuasive speaking skills and created a purchasing department with Athabasca University. When I was, I think about 8 months, 28 days, and 3 hours into my second pregnancy, Athabasca University was moved to Athabasca, which suit me very well. I started teaching music, and again, communication was very important. How do you teach students as young as 18 months in a class? And I'm not kidding you. It was more for parents than it was for children, but they were 18 months. My oldest student was 70-something. You know, when you reward with stickers, the children go, yay, I got a sticker. But if you forget to give an adult a sticker for a job well done, they get so upset. Wasn't it good? Was it what? Didn't I do it right? I'm going, it was fine. Well, why didn't you give me my sticker? Poor people. So again, communication, very important. I then stayed at home with my children. I was so fortunate to be able to do that. And I taught music from home. And again, one must speak. One must speak in a way that each person has to understand. One must decide which tactic you're going to use to get the desired result without crushing the tender ego of the learner. On and on it went. My background, I got a degree in fine arts. I have a degree in acting. I have a degree in music, specifically performance, and a secondary specialty in conducting. And I have a degree in education. I became a teacher because, well, I wanted to help the students. I thought I could help the students. And I was able to, again, communicate with them very well. Taught theater to the students, and it was a happy, happy world. We moved to Vancouver Island in the summer of 2013, and I was blissfully unaware that there was much teacher strife in the world of Vancouver Island. Immediately followed the year after with a strike. So the chances of becoming a teacher on Vancouver Island sort of sizzled and fizzled away. Mm-hmm. That being said, I had a lot to share. And so my company, Confident Stages, was born. Using my theater background and my stage ability and my understanding of the skills of speaking and singing, which, by the way, are identical, I decided that people generally could do whatever they wanted to do if they had the confidence to do it. And so Confident Stages was born. It was about helping people find the confidence for whatever stage of life they were in or whatever stage they actually had to be on, and to do it with the understanding that, yes, they could, and if they didn't have the tools, then I would supply them to it. So that's how my company was born. I then took a series of a variety of coaching mechanisms and classes and whatnot. So I'm certified to be a speaking coach through a couple of institutions, and I'm finding that combined with my own knowledge, I'm able to reach people a little bit and help them become the speakers that they want to be.
That is a great journey. It really is. It's amazing to me how you start out doing something and then here never ends up the same as there. It just never does. It really is. And like, I'm one of these people who don't set goals because I think, now, in 5 years, I have no idea. Like, I look back in 5 years, I never would have thought I'd be here in 5 years. And so I think it's fascinating hearing other people's stories and how they morph and change, and you never know what skill you pick up that you're going to have to apply later on and use. So great job with that.
And that's one of the things that I teach. The very first thing that I teach anybody about confidence is that you have to take stock and examine what your true values are. Mm-hmm. What do you believe? How deeply do you believe them? And to what degree will you go to defend them? Once you have evaluated what you actually believe, no one can shake that confidence. Mm-hmm. Because you know who you are.
Right.
And you know what you believe, and therefore being able to say it becomes so simple.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any tricks to help people figure out exactly what they believe, like to start articulating that?
Consider the major ones. What are all the attributes that we as human beings consider to be good? What are the strong attributes? There's honesty, and there's valor, and there's the opposite of the 7 deadly sins.
What? I like the deadly sins.
I love the deadly sins. I think they're fun. But all things in moderation, Alison.
Including moderation.
Yeah, moderation is boring. Anyway, the trick is that just start with those. Mm-hmm. If you don't know where to start with the 10 Commandments. And for example, how do you feel about lying?
Oh, I'm not a real big fan.
Well, and is there a good place to lie? Is it okay to gloss over the truth in order to save someone hurt? Mm-hmm. When is that okay? Is it never okay? And how firmly do you believe that?
Mm-hmm. Well, and it becomes like a domino thinking, which is the name of my company, where you start with one of those things, and then how does that roll into something else, and how does that roll into something else, and how far away do you actually get from that initial thing? So yes, you might say lying is not cool, and then you go, however, if my best friend's trying on an outfit and she loves it and it's okay, how far do I go in letting her buy it? And then how far do you go from that? Or it does become a gray area. And once you follow that through, then I suppose it can lead you into another concept that you believe stronger in, maybe about fairness or kindness.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it all snowballs. It is a domino. Just as you say, and of course that is your forte, Alison. You are absolutely brilliant at following your thought through to conclusion. Whereas many of us don't do that. Many of us just have a brilliant idea and go, cool, I'm going to go with it. And then don't think about the consequences.
Right.
Or don't think about the end result. Whereas you do, and I think the name of your company and your show is brilliant.
Thank you
Natural
so
born speakers understanding the domino effect. I think that's great.
Oh, bless your heart. I adore you.
I think you're great too.
And I would like to point out and just really make it clear to our listeners that your company name is Confidence Stages, and they can find you at confidencestages.com. So if they want to look you up and get more information on all the things that you offer, I just want to put that in here so that our listeners right now can hear that, and we'll repeat it again at the end of the show.
Perfect. Thank you for the plug, Alison.
You're very welcome. You did mention the name of the show, Natural Born Speaker. So I asked you, do you feel you're a natural born speaker?
I do.
Mm-hmm.
I do. There is always finesse that can be added. There are always techniques. There are always ways to improve. And the minute you stop looking for them is the second you become less than worthy as a speaker. Mm-hmm. There is always something new. However, some people have more natural aptitude toward it. You notice I caught myself on saying towards. There's no such word, No
Trust
such
you
word.
to know the difference.
Well, and I am the self-proclaimed grammar Nazi.
You are. I always get a little bit worried talking sometimes around you, and I think, ooh, last week I said what did I say? Talk about ability. No, talk, what was the word? I don't know, but we had quite a kick out of it, and after I was saying it, I thought, oh, Rosemarie is probably going to shake her head at that one.
It doesn't matter to me how you speak. It matters to me how I speak.
Right. Oh, talk aboutable. That was the word.
Talk aboutable.
Yeah.
Yes.
It should be a word, shouldn't it?
It's a good word. It's a good word. But hear ye, toward never has an S on it. Never. There you go. At any rate, what were we talking about that was so that, I saw a squirrel.
Being a natural born speaker.
Oh, yes.
And I think I have talked to people and they don't believe that they were born to speak necessarily, but then through life experiences, they have had things that they felt a deep need to share through personal loss or personal wisdom, a variety of different things. How do you work differently with them over people who, like you, are just born to speak and have a natural aptitude for it?
It's often said that the worst students make the best teachers because they understand the difficulties of the learning.
Mm-hmm.
People all know how to speak, and one-to-one, that can even be difficult. In their own head, they know how to speak.
Mm-hmm.
The trick is getting it out the mouth. And then the trick is sharing the information depending on the size of the group you're speaking to.
Right.
When you are amongst a group of friends, you don't have any problem saying, I think that's crazy, or no. People that don't know how to drive on snow should park the car for the winter because they're in my way. And other such ridiculous nonsense. But we don't have a problem saying that when we're among friends.
Mm-hmm.
The trick comes when you want to speak to a group of people and you have something to share with them. The difficulty is not in speaking the idea, it's where and to whom. So when you're speaking to a person that doesn't have an innate ability to speak, it's really not a problem with speaking, it's a problem of formatting. And how do you give them the comfort to how do you give them the format within which they feel secure?
Right.
To be able to speak and persuade and convince people and make their message sticky and memorable. So it doesn't, but those are exactly the same things that you do with a person who is comfortable speaking.
Right.
The only difference is that for people who are natural born speakers, they already know how to grab people's attention. They already have, it's not so much a speaking ability as charisma.
Yeah,
they have something to say and they know how to make people listen. People who are not natural born speakers still have as much to say. They just don't have the vehicle through which they are comfortable to speak.
And you help with that.
So how do you help with that? Well, first of all, I would go through and determine their expertise level on the subject. The confidence factor is huge. If you know your material, you know what you want to say, it's much easier to say it than if you're kind of dilly-dallying about and kind of have an idea sort of that might be maybe good to share with like somebody.
Right.
So your confidence in your subject matter is vital.
It is so. I remember taking a poetry class in English up at the university, and I know absolutely zero about poetry. At least in my mind, I know nothing. Like I'm not fluffy that way. Not that it's bad, because I think, poetry is beautiful and I hear it and I go, ooh, but it's not a language I speak. And I took this class and I stayed silent through almost the entire class because I didn't feel like I had any level of expertise into which to contribute. But then when he would get off topic and talk about other things, I definitely would just jump right in and have things to say about it. And I somehow don't think he appreciated that. Because, I definitely have a weird slant on things. There was this one time where there was a daycare right outside of our window, and they were blowing bubbles, and you know how bubbles have a rainbow in them. And he said, "Oh, I wonder where the rainbows come from." And somebody said some, stuff about it's light refracting. And I said, actually, a little man lives inside the bubble, and he wears a rainbow suit. And he looked at me all, wide-eyed, and he said, "Well, what happens when the bubble bursts?" And I said, "Well, the little man just dies." And he said, "Yeah." And so he said, "Well, no, that's awful." He said, "Well, why isn't it a woman?" I said, "Well, because girls are smarter. We don't put on rainbow suits, I guess." And I probably should have he then went on to criticize my ability to be a parent and how I should never be allowed to be around children. Yeah, needless to say, we did not get along well. But it definitely showed me that it was so glaringly obvious, something that I was comfortable being sarcastic and cheeky about, I was fine. But those topics that I really didn't understand at all, I just stayed so quiet and became quite withdrawal. So I can understand how when somebody's getting up on the stage, really, really knowing your topic is huge value.
Absolutely. And then the next trick is, how do you actually format the speech?
Mm.
How do you create a speech that's not just interesting to you? Because when you're a speaker, you see, it has nothing to do with you.
Right.
As a speaker, the only person that's important is the one in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
You already know what you have to say. If you were only sharing with yourself, you can do that in the bathroom mirror. But if you're in the audience, you want that speaker talking to you. You paid your money to go in and have that speaker talk to you. Whether they're uncomfortable or tired or hungover or just flew in and the plane was late is of no consequence.
Right.
One of the biggest mistakes that speakers make is they open their mouth and they say, "Oh, I'm so tired. My plane got in late and there was a crying baby on the flight," or, "My arches have fallen and I'm in dire pain." The audience doesn't care.
What? They don't care about your fallen arches? Really?
No, they really don't. They really don't.
So how do you change that speech to stop being about yourself and to start being about the audience? What are your tips on that?
Well, there's a couple of things that you have to realize. First of all, the most powerful word in our language is you.
Mm.
Your speech should never bring up I until at least a sentence or two or three in.
Mm.
"I'm so happy to be here" means this is all about me. "Thank you for inviting me here today." Mm-hmm. That's all about me. No. The audience is not interested in your opinion of this. The audience wants to know what you're going to give them. So it's, "Thank you for attending today." Now I'm talking to you.
Right. Yeah.
And
so is that why Toastmasters, and I love Toastmasters, I'm definitely a member, and it has started me on this journey. Is that why at the beginning they say to avoid that thanking the audience? Or thanking,
That's right. And so you're wasting your precious time. Mm. Whether a speaker has 30 seconds or 3 hours, it's never enough time.
Right.
Time is not a speaker's friend. We get on a roll and we will go for days. In the meantime, there's someone off the stage frantically pointing at their watch saying, "Get off the stage."
Yeah, I've done event planning. I know that one where somebody's like, "I'm just going to take like 30 seconds to thank people." And I'm like, "No, you're not allowed. You're not allowed."
You're not allowed. You're not allowed. The other most important word or phrase to understand is that nobody wants to be most people.
Mm.
When you're trying to, for example, if you're selling a product of any kind, most people would think this, this, and this, but you are not most people.
Right.
There's the power phrase.
Mm.
Most people think that being a speaker is easy. You get up on stage, you blither away for a while, and you leave. But you are not most people.
We so desire to be individual, don't we?
Yes.
And
We do not want to be clumped into most people. We all want to be special. And so the speaker's job up on the stage while they are sharing their opinions, their ideas, their facts, their knowledge, is to make every person in that audience feel special.
Right.
If you don't have that at the top of your mind when you're creating your speech, you're doing it wrong.
Well, and Oprah's catching some flack for that right now with her Weight Watchers video or commercial or whatever it is, where she's saying inside every fat body is a skinny person trying to get out or something. I don't remember the exact language, but it's that don't speak for me. When people are coming out and saying, I'm not unhealthy because I'm overweight, or I'm not unhappy because I'm overweight, and I've been skinny and I'm happier now, and don't speak for me. So I definitely see how that can be a thing, because I know I get my back up.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I don't want to be most people, and don't tell me what I think.
Yes, that's a big one.
So when you're formatting a speech, you have to first of all come out and you've got to have a phrase that grabs them out of their conversation. You have to come out on stage in a way that's already in performance.
Right.
And I'm going to say this, and people are going to get right riled. Speakers are not actors, but they are performers. And many of the rules that apply to acting apply to performing. The only speakers that don't want to accept that are the speakers that are unaware. That's what they're supposed to do in order to grab the audience.
So what's the difference then between a speaker and an actor?
A speaker speaks the truth, not someone else's words. A speaker never memorizes a speech. Actors go to acting school for about 1.5 million years to learn how to take the spoken. Sorry, I can talk. I'm a speaker. Actors go to school for years and years to learn how to take a written word, whether they wrote it or someone else wrote it, to take a written word and present it as fresh and new. Speakers aren't trained as actors. If we go up there with a memorized speech, we don't have the skills to make that appear sincere.
Right.
Therefore, stop memorizing speeches. What is the greatest fear that a speaker has? Besides that they're going to trip and fall on their face, of course. But the fear that the speaker has is they're going to forget what to say. Well, add that you've memorized the speech, and of course you're terrified that you're going to forget what to say. Of course you are. How could you not be? You get up there, you're nervous, your hands are clammy, you've suddenly got an itch that you're not allowed to scratch, and now the words are gone, and you don't have a teleprompter. So stop memorizing speeches. Memorize the format. Every speech should consist of 3 main headings, blanketed by an introduction and a conclusion. The only difference to the length of the speech, whether it's 3 minutes, a keynote, or a 2-day workshop, is how much detail you put into those 3 topics. We can easily remember 3 things. Know your opening, know your closing, and then how hard is it to remember that you're going to talk about 3 things?
I can do 3.
Why would that be? Why would you try and memorize that? Now, within each of those 3 things, you can talk to up to 3 things. Well, that's not hard to remember either. So, and if you know your material, why would you memorize?
Right.
And give yourself great cause for nervousness. This is why people, and it's impossible to do, to memorize a big speech, because there's so many distractions up on the stage that you can't prepare for. Which is why, pet peeve number the first, PowerPoint and slides.
They can be tricky.
Inexperienced speakers use their slides as their presentation.
Mm-hmm.
The more inexperienced a speaker is, the more insecure they are with having to memorize, and the less insecure and the less understanding that they have of how to format a speech, the more they rely on their slides.
Mm.
The worst slides in the world, of course, are the ones that have tons of information.
Right.
If people are reading, they're not listening to you. If they're not listening to you, why are you there?
Right. Well, and I know I can read faster than somebody can talk. So I'm already at the end of the slide and they're still talking and I'm thinking, okay, now give me something new.
And you have a chance to go out and your brain goes on a little vacation. You start doing your grocery list. You start thinking about that the person behind you is wearing too much perfume.
Right.
So slides are there to augment your presentation, not be the presentation.
Mm.
A really good slide is meant to evoke emotion. Because that's where natural-born speakers don't get it. Natural-born speakers don't always understand that it's not just the message that the people need to hear, it's the message that they have to feel.
Right.
A natural-born speakers often forget that it's not just their words or their charisma or that they're entertaining. In order to be a great speaker, you have to cause the audience to have an emotional reaction. Good, bad, otherwise, it doesn't matter. If you've created an emotional reaction from your audience, they will remember you.
Mm.
And then they will remember what you say.
Right.
So a slide that can cause an emotional reaction, consider the two emotional reactions that you would have if you put up on the slide the atomic bomb cloud, the mushroom.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now consider the reaction to looking at a baby playing with a newborn puppy.
Mm-hmm.
Or a child covered in his first birthday cake's icing.
Right. Right.
Those are going to cause an emotional reaction. So slides are excellent for creating the atmosphere and the intent of what you're going to want them to feel.
Mm.
They're lousy at sharing information. But then that's good, because if you could do it that way, why would we need public speakers? We could just mail everybody the PowerPoint presentation.
And just be done with it.
And be done with it.
Yes. Now, is it true that some people actually need to see it written down because not everybody learns just by hearing? And then how do you include those people with the speech and the context? If you are giving a lot of information, some people just don't have that learning style to absorb it.
That's true. That's true. And some people, gone are the days, when we used to go up on stage or as a teacher into the class and say, turn off your cell phones, put down your pencils, and just listen. We have become more aware that everybody has different learning styles, right? And so if people need to read the information, then ask for a copy of the information following.
Mm.
People have very differing opinions about handing out the written information before or during and after, or whether you supply it at all. People have very different ideas of the proper way, and it depends on the content.
Mm.
It depends on the content. What do you do then if people don't, as I often do, I have no slides.
Mm-hmm.
People, however, are completely free to tape my presentation if they want to. I have no right anymore to tell people to not write it down. Some people learn by writing things down.
Right.
I have no right to tell people that they need to sit absolutely still and just listen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's tough
I
for
have
some
no
people.
right to say that you mustn't quickly lean over to your neighbor and share a piece of an interesting thought about what was just said.
Mm.
As far as seeing the written information, is it the reading that they learn from, or is it the writing that they learn from?
I guess it would depend.
It does depend.
Mm-hmm.
And so my response to you is, doesn't that entirely depend on the content? If you're a motivational speaker and you're trying to inspire people to make change, do you think that they are going to be inspired by reading something? And if they could read about it, why wouldn't they just go buy a book?
Right.
And that brings me to my second topic. To product.
That's a good segue.
Yeah, wasn't that excellent?
It
You
was
think
excellent.
I planned
I
it?
liked it.
No. To product or not to product? Do speakers need to have a book? Do speakers need to have social media presence? Do speakers need to have a website? What do you have to do to be a speaker? It's not enough just to be able to speak about a subject. You get into that promotional area, the marketing area, and it's huge. Mm-hmm. And so many speakers have such brilliant things to share and give cause to think and inspire and all kinds of wonderful things, but they don't have an opportunity to say it. It doesn't matter if we have the most brilliant idea in the world. If we can't say it in a way that grabs people's attention and causes them to listen, if we have no venue through which to make that presentation, it doesn't matter what our ideas are. They are going to die.
Yeah. And that's unfortunate. And that's why we need people like you to help bring it out and provide platforms and skills to present it to people.
Yeah. And marketing is so tricky.
Yes.
I mean, that's why we have entire curricula designed to teach marketing and business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A speaker first starting out doesn't have the cash to hire a business agent, a speaker's agent, a speaking bureau. So we are left sometimes doing it all on our own.
Right.
Unless,
trial and error.
Trial and error. And so that enter the world of mentors.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be nice to have a mentor that can just steer you on the right path? Wouldn't that be great?
It would make things a whole lot easier.
Yes, it would.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And in the long run, cheaper.
And in the long run, cheaper. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, to become a speaker seems to cost money.
Like any other business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I understand that you have a program right now to help, like it's a package, isn't it, for speakers? Can you tell me something about that?
I do. I have a couple of packages. I have long-term and short-term packages that, depending on, as I said, with the format of the speaking, how much depth do you want to go into? So the first thing that we talk about is why you're a speaker. Where did the topic come from? Where's your expertise level? And to whom and who's your audience? To choose a topic is to choose your audience. You cannot speak to everybody all at the same time because you have to change the way you format and deliver the speech to do that. So first we talk about what it is you want to say. Then you want to understand how to format the speech. It's very important. If you can't give information the way it can be absorbed, you can't expect people to listen.
Mm.
So the very first thing then is decide what your topic is going to be. The second thing that we go into is grammar.
From the grammar Nazi.
From the grammar Nazi.
You're the one to do it.
Well, because if you can't say it in a way that people understand, you may as well be talking in another language. Mm-hmm. People respect you more when you speak properly. If I was like to go on stage and have something to say, but what's that word?
You know. Yes. I had a sociology instructor like that, and it got to the point where we just counted his ahs and never heard a word he said, and the man was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But you'd never heard a word that came out of his mouth because we're busy counting his filler words.
That's right. Mm-hmm. So not only do you have to understand your own language, you have to understand how to say it correctly in the colloquialisms that are, et cetera, that are going to apply to the audience you're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a little bit of understanding our language.
Right.
So you have to have some grammar skills, and that doesn't mean that you have to know exactly where to put a semicolon and that a comma should precede every quotation, et cetera, but it does mean that you have to know the best words in the right order, and you can't be making up words.
Mm-hmm. What? Talk about it.
Well, unless you mean to be doing it and bring it in.
Oh, like that.
Yeah. So there is a little grammar understanding that has to come into it. Mm-hmm. The next stage is I call it public speaking without the puppetry.
Mm-hmm.
It's an understanding of presentation practices. For example, which side of the stage do you come in from? Where do you make your entrance? Did you know that one side of the stage is absolutely stronger than the other? What happens when you leap forward toward your audience at a galloping pace because you're enthused and eager? You will either get them enthused and eager back, or you'll find them sitting back in their seats as if there's a bulldozer coming at them. It's about finding the light. Have you ever seen a speaker that has their face in darkness?
Mm. Yes.
All of those things, how to use your body language properly so that you're not contradicting yourself, how to combine everything so that what you think you're saying is actually what the audience is hearing. So that's all presentation skills. Then we get into using the voice. Now, this is my particular area of specialty because I'm a classically trained singer and have a degree in music and whoopee-doo-doo. The point is that speakers need to use the entire range of their voice. They have to understand what chest voice is, what head voice is, how to combine the bridge in between, what speed to use, how much air to put into the breath, all because if you try telling a spooky story, you tell it a lot differently than if you're saying, and the bunny hopped over the bench. But a speaker that speaks in a monotone voice and has too much air in it isn't going to impress anybody with anything at any time ever. Mm. You have to understand the capability of the voice. You have to know how to breathe. You have to understand that this nonsense about tightening your diaphragm for support is exactly that, and it harms your vocal mechanisms. There's other ways to get the support and the projection and the diction and all that sort of, I got enthused. Oh my goodness. Okay. Then how to get personal, how to combine all of those things to become a strong public speaking package. It's well and good to know grammar. It's well and good to know formatting. It's equally wonderful to know how to use your voice. But it takes a little bit of practice to be able to combine them all consistently well. So that's the final stage of the package. So it comes out as this. It comes out as the first stage is grammar confidence. The second stage is presentation confidence. The third is vocal confidence. And the fourth is power package confidence.
Okay.
So that's the way my program works. And I've devised my own system of communicating that. As far as the vocal process goes, years and years and years of research and experimentation and work have combined to give me a great deal of understanding of how we actually use our voices to communicate, and it's not just through words.
It's great. And so then people, if I understand correctly, they can hire you for just one part of this package or for the entire package?
They can do just one piece of it. Mm-hmm. They can do the whole thing. They can do it for 6 weeks. They can do it for 3 months.
Okay. And is all this information on your website?
All this information, and okay, here's the story with the website. You have to understand that I used to call myself a technological neophyte. Technology and I don't always agree, but then I decided that calling myself a neophyte was far too generous. I'm actually a troglodyte. I know from nothing. My website crashed and burned and whatnot. And so the beginning of next week, my new one will be up and running.
Yay, exciting.
And so the packages will be listed starting next week.
Okay. And in the meantime, they would be able to connect with you through email?
They can connect with me at rbarnes@confidentstages.com.
And that's Barnes with an E, Barnes.
At confident, not confidence, but confidentstages.com.
And why did you call it Confident Stages?
Because my goal is to have people confident about every stage of their life, no matter what stage they're in or what stage they have to be on.
Oh, that's excellent. It's appropriate. And do you work with men and women?
I work with individuals. I work with youth. I work with seniors. I work with groups. I work with corporations. I can go into a corporation and help everyone in that corporation understand the speaking needs of that company. So that every time they open their mouths and they're talking about the company, they know the method and the style that the company is best communicated with.
Right, because corporate culture is huge when it
comes
to
that
that
culture
sort of thing.
is huge, and every time we open our mouth about the company, the look on our face tells a story. So it's not the words, it's the way people speak to each other in the building, but it's also the way, if you are doing a sales presentation, you are representing a company. If you are simply trying to boost an idea, you are representing. When we speak, we are representing thoughts, ideas, cultures. To be able to do that properly is a huge step towards the success of the company. To make sure that all your employees understand what makes the company tick and can represent the company that way. And I don't mean towing the company line. I mean being able to verbalize what the company represents.
Right. And you may as well be talking to people in their own language.
Yes.
All right. We didn't even get touched on that part about your leadership paradigms. Do you want to just say something really briefly about that?
Sure. Very quickly then. leadership paradigms of today have nothing to do with the way leaders used to work in the past. People value work in a different way. See, it comes right down to values again. We've got the baby boomers and Generation X and Generation Y, and now Generation Z is ready to start graduating from high school, and they're going to hit the workforce too. Each of those generations has hugely different values about work.
Mm-hmm.
Work used to be, if the task wasn't done, you stayed late until it was done. Just try that with a person of the millennial generation. Because the value to work is not the same. If you want to lead them, you have to understand them. You have to understand what motivates them, what inspires them, and it's not the same as it was in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Leaders who are still trying to lead with the broad brushstrokes of the 50s are frustrated because it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
What about today's people who are trying to lead, who have catapulted into the leadership positions, who are trying to lead people older than themselves? What do they need to understand? It's not just a matter of the old changing to encompass the young or the new. It's the other way around, too.
Mm-hmm.
And so the paradigms have shifted so drastically. And unless you understand them, you're in for a rockier road than you need to be on. So the leadership paradigms for the 21st, I call it the alphabet soup. Because we've got the X, the Ys, the Zs, the baby boomers, we have everything in this melting pot of employees and workers now.
Mm-hmm.
You can't dream of leading them all in the same way. So what do you do? And that's what I speak to.
Oh, excellent. And again, it's along the same lines as knowing your audience.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd be great at that. Mm-hmm. Very cool. And anything else? Do you have any speaking engagements coming up?
Oh, I'm so excited. I am. I have a number of them. I'm speaking in Alberta to the Public Speaking Association there at the end of next week.
Excellent.
Yes, it's very exciting. In February, I'm actually speaking on Vancouver Island up in Campbell River to a group up there who is interested in learning some of my ideas about speaking. Then I get to speak at CAPS, the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, in April. I'm also involved with Leadership Vancouver Island about speaking to youth about leadership and what they need to have, what they need to understand about being a leader in their own right. And so I've got one in February and one in April. I've also, and here's the plug for me, I've also started a new radio show.
You have. Exciting. And it's with the same radio station. And I'd like to mention right now, too, that just so that there's no confusion before we get all excited about your topic, Bold Radio Station is who we signed up with, and they have now joined with W for Divas. And there's a merger going on right now. And they're doing an amazing job of working out all the kinks, and I'm asking people to just stay real patient with it because we are amazing, and you will see how great this merger is going to be. Now, that having been said, the name of your show and when does it air?
My show is called Off the Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Tagline, Views from Vancouver Island.
Brilliant.
It airs on Tuesdays from 1 till 2 p.m. Pacific time, so a few hours different than that. In the East, 3 hours.
3 hours.
3 hours, and you've got it. It is about Vancouver Island.
And who doesn't want to know about Vancouver Island?
It is about what affects us living on the island. It is about how we affect the world. Mm-hmm. It is about the people, the places, the quite literal views from Vancouver Island, our politics, our education systems, our phenomenal people, our events, you name it, anything to do with Vancouver Island is going to be on my show. It starts on February the 2nd. please tune in at 1 o'clock on Bold Radio, and it's going to be fun, it's going to be lighthearted, it's going to be informative, and I'm so excited about it.
Yay. And then people can find more information about that on wfordivas.com, boldradiostation.com, and then they can email you as well if they want to be a guest on your show.
Yes, please. And use the previous address for now until, the technological issues are sorted out.
Do you want to say that one again?
It is rbarnes@confidentstages.com.
Excellent. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for being a guest. You were absolutely brilliant. You have so many great tips and tricks that people can use. And I really encourage people that if they're looking for somebody to help with preparing their speeches, understanding their audiences, and working on the use of their vocal abilities, that they get in touch with you. The things that you've showed me have been invaluable. And I think they would be really fortunate to get to work with you.
Oh, you are so lovely. Thank you.
You are most welcome. And I would also like to thank Deb, our producer with W for Divas, doing a great job. Thank you so much. And until next Saturday, speak up, because you have something to say and we need to hear it.
Thanks for hanging out with Natural Born Speakers. But don't stop now. Contact Alison with questions or to be a guest on the show. Alison is also available for speaking engagements. Check us out at dominothinking.com. See you next Saturday.